information that we have now. So our goal tonight is to come up with that prioritization. It is not to come up with alternative scenarios or to come up with a definitive 3-1-1 or any of those types of scenarios. Those will be mostly discussed at the next meeting on January 27th. The goal tonight is to come up with the prioritization and hopefully consensus among all of the committee members of that prioritization. So what we're going to do is we've allocated 1 hour for this first part of the day breakout. So in each of our four small groups, we'll have 1 hour to work as a small group. At each table, we've got a series of Post-it notes that you'll see, and you've got the poster board as well. The deliverable at the end of the hour is to take these Post-it notes and rank order them on the poster board at your table for the high schools, the middle schools, and the elementary schools, to rank them all down there based on your discussions. At that point, after the hour, we'll see plus minus, depending on how all the tables are doing, and we can check in at that point. We'll then pause for public comment. Then we'll come back as the committee, and we're going to have the report out then to a single board that we'll have up here, where each of the 4 groups will present what they have. We'll put them next to each other, and our goal is to then rank as a committee, all of us together. And just so we know as well, we may be bucketing things. So it could be these couple of schools in the elementaries, but we don't know necessarily 1, 2, 3, but we know they're all in the top 3, for example. So these might be things to consider as you're putting the buckets together or the full ranking. So it may not be a 1 through 13 of the elementaries. It could be some buckets of the elementaries that are put together that we as a committee then all agree on. Anything I missed there?
Just for the committee, so that you know kind of what your setup is, as a reminder, it's been a month since we've gotten to meet and look at this. The Chromebooks on your tables, you each have a interactive flat screen that you're connected to, so you can pull information up. You also have at least 1 copy of a binder with all of the information. All of the prior information that's linked to all of the agenda items is available as well. The links are on our website. If anybody wants to click and look through them, the links are there through the prior agendas. If you have questions about process as we go along, just raise your hand up and I'll come over and see if I can answer anything for you. We want to make sure that it might be easiest if you put I know it takes up a lot of space, but if you put your big board back on when you're ready to start having those discussions, you have Post-its that you can move around as you go through. Are there any questions from the committee before we get started? Yes.
Some of us would like the summary of the different criteria. We have a copy. If you could make more, or if you already have them, would be great. Thank you.
May take us a minute to get those for you because Anything else from members of the committee before we get started?
Okay, so in that case, again, just reminding everyone else in the public that's here, this next hour is going to be a little boring because you can't really hear the discussions. We apologize for that, but that's how we're set up. So we're starting right now at about 5:50. At 6:50, we're going to reconvene, or you can reconvene back here. Feel free to come in and out while we're doing this work, and that's roughly when we're going to target doing the public comment, after which we'll do the report out at that point. So with that, we're going to break into the small groups.
Actually, so I was going to get there, but if we can not shout out and give us an opportunity to get started. Thank you. The committees there's not a quorum at any one table. They are having discussions, kind of a working discussion. This is a meeting held in public. It's not a meeting with the public. The actual discussion that the committee as a whole, for them to communicate as a quorum, has to be the part that's conducted publicly. So you can have small working groups that are not subject to those public discussions, but as a group, if you have 11 in a group, then we have a quorum, and that all has to be public under the Brown Act. Thank you.
Okay, let's get at it. Thank you.
Okay, we are about at the end of our working group time. We're going to take about a 5-minute transition break. So we'll be calling for we'll be starting public comment in about 5 minutes. Okay, we will go ahead. We're wrapping up our group discussion time and transition. We will do, I've been asked to facilitate, or I'm going to go ahead and facilitate the public comment this evening so that our committee members, our chair can participate with the group rather than running the public comment piece. So I'll call three at a time. I apologize ahead of time if I mispronounce anyone's name. We have the podium over here, and we will have 1 minute for public comment for each person. So we have Zoe Blake, Trent Purvis, and Naomi Perry. Just a reminder, because this is a special meeting under the Brown Act, we can only allow public comment on the special agenda item. Okay.
Hi, my name is Zoe and I'm a student here at Santa Rosa. I was surprised to learn about Mr. Medina's comment regarding our lack of attendance at board meetings because I was under the impression that it wouldn't affect the outcome of the shutdown. But since it apparently does, I came here to vouch for my school. Santa Rosa is home to a variety of programs that I believe have been incorrectly labeled movable. Our agriculture program is one of the best in the county, and our auto shop class is able to promote hands-on learning like no other program in the vicinity. Our ArtQuest program does a phenomenal job in training the artists of tomorrow. Our campus has a black box theater, a working dark room, a podcast room, editing suites, a printmaking studio, a documentation studio, a sound booth, a sewing lab, drawing tablets, and various other studio spaces. I don't think it would be easy or possible to find the same space, staff, and history that make up the program as it is today. The majority of the resources used in these programs are not coming out of the district's pocket, and in fact, positively affect the budget by attracting more people to the district. Shutting down Santa Rosa would do more harm than good, and I urge you to reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. Next, we have Trent Purvis, Naomi Perry, and then Betsy J. Gillian Sanchez. Trent?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Trent Purvis, and I am a sophomore at Santa Rosa High School. Santa Rosa High School is more than a school. It's a historic landmark. This year, celebrating its 150th anniversary. Santa Rosa High School is also a cornerstone of the community, bringing together well over 1,000 students from across the county. If Santa Rosa High School were to close, you'd be disrupting the lives of these many students who rely on the resources, the programs, and the support of Santa Rosa High School, as well as disrupting the spirited and strong community of SRHS. Along with this, as the brother of a future SRHS student, I'm troubled by the thought of my brother missing out on the many opportunities offered at SRHS, such as ArtQuest, the agriculture program, the CTE program, and the phenomenal SRJC dual enrollment program. Please do not close Santa Rosa High School. Thank you.
Thank you, Trent. Next, we have Naomi Perry, Betsy J. Gillian Sanchez, and then Jason Dennis. Naomi?
Hello, everyone. My name is Naomi Perry, relaying this message on behalf of Lucy Snyder, who was unable to make it tonight. My name is Lucy Snyder. I am a level 2 ArtQuest theater student at Santa Rosa High School. ArtQuest is a big part of my life. ArtQuest moving schools would greatly disrupt my career path. When it comes to ArtQuest, it's not just about the elective itself. It's about the community where we've built and continue to build. I've always struggled with making friends, but being in ArtQuest allowed me to meet and bond with so many people here at SRHS. If SRHS was closed, it would tear apart our close-knit ArtQuest community. Not only is the ArtQuest community strong, but also the buildings here at SRHS are specialized for the program, with many features unique to our school, such as our dance studio, dark room, and black box theater. I would be lost without these classes, disrupted by the separation of this community and the disruption of my career path. Do not close Santa Rosa High School. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Betsy J. Gillian Sanchez, Jason Dennis, and Lee Corey.
Good evening. My name is Betsy Guillen Sanchez. I am a concerned member of the community at Pioneer High School. I am someone who deeply understands the importance of our school and believes in the consequences it could have on our students, families, and the entire community if the district were to close our school. Pioneer High School is a place where students grow, learn, and find both support and encouragement. For decades, we have been coming together to create an inclusive learning environment. We are a place where teachers and staffs invest in child's potential. If we were to close, the effects would be felt not only by our future generations and alumni, but mostly by those who currently attend and work at Pioneer. Our schools in this district are places where our children have the opportunity to grow, succeed, and realize their full potential. I know that this is a difficult situation for all of us, but we must ask ourselves, what kind of community do we want to be? Do we want to be the community that sacrifices the well-being of our children in the name to pay off debt? Or do you want to be a community that stands up for the education of our students and for the abiding strength of our city? Please save Pioneer High School. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Next, we have Jason Dennis, followed by Lee Corey and Lewis Patrick.
Hello, my name is Jason Dennis, and I am a junior here at Santa Rosa High School. I really think one of the major upsides of our campus is the large number of integrated communities that it houses, and the fact that many clubs and communities thrive specifically from being here. One specific one is the agriculture program, which is one of the largest in town and one of the most well thought up and developed programs around. Similarly, the auto shop, metal shop, and wood shop programs are very unique here on campus and provide a very tangible future for many students who look to go into the trade programs that other schools do not offer. We also have a lot of clubs that thrive from this specific campus, such as D&D Club, which has connections to Wizards of the Coast, thanks to Mr. Anglin, who runs a shop downtown, plus Chess Club, which facilitates the chess league, and many more. Those are just
Thank you, Jason. Next, we have Lee Corey, followed by Lewis Patrick, followed by Briley Stifler Weir. Lee?
Thank you, members of the committee, and good evening. My name is Lee Corey, and I'm a senior at Santa Rosa High. I'm speaking here tonight to urge you not to close SRHS. You may be wondering why support and advocacy for Santa Rosa High is only coming now, long after this process of school closure began. I've attended nearly every board meeting this school year and have not yet spoke, though at no point have I thought it would be anything other than a mistake of disastrous proportions to close Santa Rosa High. I have not yet spoken at a public meeting to advocate for my school because I understand that this decision is not being made based on what school is most liked or how many students speak at meetings. This committee is making a very educated choice based on an extensive list of factors. I did not feel previously that my comments would create any change, but it seems now that they might. So I urge you, do not close Santa Rosa High. This school is a pillar of a broader community within our city, not just the community within our school. It's extremely diverse, from our incredible art magnet program to our award-winning FFA program. This school is the oldest in the district, the 9th oldest in the state. We have an on-site museum. This school is so old that we have
Thank you, Lee. Your time is up. Okay, next we have Lewis Patrick, followed by Briley Stifler Weir, followed by Michelle Crosby.
Yeah, I didn't plan to speak tonight, but seeing everybody here from Santa Rosa High School and the support, you see how much love everybody has for each other and how much this school means to the community. I graduated here in 2002, and the culture and the atmosphere here on campus continues to be strong. There's a lot of tradition here. There's a lot of love for each other, not just within our school, but within our community, within Santa Rosa, and within our county. People branch out all the time, wondering about Santa Rosa and where they're at and how they're doing. And now there's a lot of support to keep us going and keep us driving forward. So the staff here, the students here, we got a strong bond, and we know that we have something special here. And so that's why we're here tonight, to speak our voice. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, Lewis. Next, we have Briley Stifler Weir, Michelle Crosby, followed by Joel Grogan.
Hi, I'm Briley Stifler Weir, and I came here to, of course, plead to keep Proctor Terrace, Santa Rosa Middle School, Santa Rosa High School open. But as I drove up and I saw the Save Santa Rosa High School sign on the field, on the grass driving up, it's larger than that. And I'm actually saying Save Santa Rosa. We need this, please, as community, as members, step up privately and say, we demand more from this board, we demand more from this district. The closure of schools is not a solution, it is a failure. These options are not viable. They cannot be done safely in the time being allowed. You will bleed this district of people that care about this district and care about this community. We will be forced to leave. Please, again, this is a much bigger thing than choosing these 4 options. This will affect Santa Rosa at large, and it is imperative that everybody get up and stand up privately and demand more from this district. Everybody deserves more.
Thank you,
And
Briley. Your
thank
time is
you.
up. Just a reminder, there are several of the blue cards that are marked as non-agenda items. I believe that you're actually all here to talk about this. So just a reminder to keep it, to have it on topic, even if you did not check on agenda items, because it's a special meeting. So next we have Michelle Crosby, Joel Grogan, followed by Maylee Purvis.
Hi, my name is Michelle Crosby. I'm a proud alumni of Santa Rosa High School, class of 1996. I have a daughter who's a current junior at Santa Rosa High School and is a member of the ArtQuest Dance Company. I'm deeply concerned that the district will struggle to address the fiscal deficit as the projected 40% savings from closing schools will be significantly undermined by families and students leaving the district. This potential loss of enrollment and funding is particularly pronounced if any of the 5 high schools are closed. Most of the discussion has been directed at the costs of operations with little emphasis on how these changes will impact the revenue. Both sides of the equation are important. While I'm an advocate for keeping all the high schools open and consolidating at the elementary and middle school levels, I strongly oppose the closure of Santa Rosa High School for a million reasons, but will highlight the following. The positive transfer rate. More students transfer to Santa Rosa than out of Santa Rosa, and closing any school with a positive transfer rate would be fiscally irresponsible and significantly impact the school district revenue. The school has structures and programs that cannot be relocated to any of the other
Thank you,
locations.
Michelle. Your time
And
is
to
up.
limit those programs would destroy the
Michelle, your
community.
time is up. Thank you. Next, we have Joel Grogan, followed by Maylee Purvis, followed by Doug Purvis. Joel?
Good evening, committee members. I'm Joel Grogan, Proctor Terrace Elementary parent. I would like to speak about the Alquist Priolo earthquake fault zones. While there are 4 elementary campuses in these zones, there's no prohibition on upgrades or construction. There is only a requirement that a geologic investigation must be done first. If a fault is located, new construction and major renovations can only take place a minimum of 50 feet from the fault. Proctor Terrace is the only campus which has already had a geologic investigation due to construction of a new portable building, and that one found no evidence of a fault. The earthquake zone status is nuanced. It should not be a determining factor in any campus closure. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Next, we have Maylee Purvis, followed by Doug Purvis, followed by Meg Peterson. Maylee?
Hi, I'm May Lee, an engineer and a parent volunteer for science and math at Santa Rosa High School. At the last meeting, the community asked you to please minimize the impact to high school students. They're at a critical juncture in their lives for college and career. In teaching CTE engineering robotics at Windsor for STEM core, I had homeless students, migrant workers, and English learners. But it was my transfer student from the recently closed El Molino that stumbled. When the promising STEM student fell into a funk and stopped coming to school for weeks, I worked with their mom to pull them back on track to narrowly graduate. Now take that one student who went through the trauma of their school closing. Would you multiply that by 1,000 students? Would you multiply it by 1,500 students? Do the right thing and minimize the number of displaced high school students. Do not close Santa Rosa, one of our largest schools. Do not displace 500 more high school students than needed. 500 students
Thank you, Maylee.
more
Your
than a
time
couple
is
of
up.
rank points.
Next, we have Doug Purvis, followed by Meg Peterson, followed by Erica Lipinovich. Doug?
Hi, my name is Doug Purvis. I'm a proud Santa Rosa High School parent and science teacher. This consolidation process is obviously a very emotional thing for everyone involved, but our district is in a budget crisis, and the only way out is to make smart business decisions moving forward. To do this, emotions must be minimized during the ranking process so our leaders can focus on the business aspects of the rankings. One basic metric for how a business decision is evaluated is return on investment, which includes both money spent on a business as well as its performance. Removing school performance criteria 14, 15, and 16 skews the data by removing the return part of the equation. Our students and teachers have worked hard for performance metrics that the state uses to measure the effectiveness of a school. Include criteria 14, 15, and 16 in your recommendation to the board so they can make good business decisions going forward. Good performance attracts families and transfers. Thank you for your time, and thank you for
Doug.
all your volunteer work.
Next, we have Meg Peterson, Erica Lipinovich, followed by Mia Clem. Meg?
Thank you for your time. I know you are in an impossible situation with plenty of pressure and stress from the community, from this task that's upon you. This is more for being creative, and I know that you guys are doing the best you can. I wanted to address what was said at some of the town halls about 7 through 12 schools only being in rural districts. I just wanted the public to know that they are done in major urban areas, including New York City, Cincinnati, LA
I'm sorry,
Unified.
Meg, the agenda item tonight is only about it's the ranking. It's not about the alternative scenarios tonight. That'll be on the 27th.
Okay. In that case.
You can speak about this
Yep.
item.
Okay. In that case, I just implore you that all of the schools are wonderful, and I know that you are doing the best you can, and I really thank you for your time.
Thank you, Meg. Okay, Erica Lipinovich, followed by Mia Clem, followed by Jessica Milan.
Hello, everybody. I just want to say thank you to all the committee members. I know you've been all working really hard. I'm really happy that you're all here on a Friday night. Lisa August, thank you so much for what you do. Ben Wolf, I know you guys are all working really, really hard. I want to take the time to say that obviously we're ranking schools, but also I want to just point out that this community is amazing. I have been witness to just the amazing passion that's come through. I'm so excited to see where our district goes, but I really think that this is going to be an opportunity to turn a crisis into an opportunity. Hopefully, we are able to consolidate so we have more resources and we aren't split so much. I want to see all the high schools stay open. So we're not talking about that tonight, however, so I'm sorry. That was a pivot. But I just wanted to say I look forward to seeing how this community all comes together, and we will rise. Santa Rosa will make it through all of this. So let's just keep
Thank
fighting
you,
for what
Erica.
we believe in.
Your time is up. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have Mia Clem, followed by Jessica Mullen, followed by Amy Martin. Mia?
Hi, my name is Mia Clem. I'm a senior at Santa Rosa High School. I'm an honors art class student, and I've been in theater for 4 years. And as I'm sure you've all heard, our last show, Dog Sees God, was canceled. And from that cancellation, we have been censored. Our creativity, our arts, what we use to express ourselves and our personalities and who we are as a person.
Mia, please keep it on topic.
This is on topic, if you would listen. Thank you.
Thank you.
So as you canceled our last show, if you cancel ArtQuest, if you cancel what makes your children freedom, what gives them freedom, what gives them creativity, what gives them who we are, what we are as children, everything that a child needs, you're canceling all of that. Just, I don't think you realize that by getting rid of Santa Rosa is not only stopping Santa Rosa, but it's stopping children from being children, being able to express ourselves and being able to grow into who we are as a person. Thank you.
Thank you, Mia. Okay. Next, we have Jessica Mullen, followed by Amy Martin, followed by Joe Reynolds. Jessica?
I'm Jessica Mullen. I'm a Proctor parent, and I'm asking the committee today to remove the Alquist Priolo map from criteria 12. You can build at Alquist Priolo map schools, including Proctor. You just have to do a geotech investigation first. Districts all over California build school facilities in the Alquist Priolo map area. Beverly Hills High School, elementary schools in Pasadena, San Benito High School are just a couple of examples. You need a good geotech that's an expert in these. It's not just about digging an enormous trench. So until we've actually done those investigations, I really want to strongly urge this committee to stay kind of in what we know and what's fact-based, and not just make assumptions about my school and the other 3 schools on the fault line. So with that in mind, I please ask you to not include the Alquist Priolo maps in criteria 12. We simply don't have enough information to make such a big decision about school closures. And as I close, I want to just take a minute to say how wonderful Proctor Terrace is and how proud I am to be part of this
Jessica. Your
special
time is up.
community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Amy Martin, followed by Joe Reynolds, followed by Shia Wang.
Thank you.
Amy?
My name is Amy Martin, and I am one of the substitute teachers that actually work with the middle schools and high schools. And I have yet to see anything said about the special ed programs in the rankings as whether that's actually something. And I would like to, for some of them, like Monty, that's where they have where they're needed. They have the buildings. Slater has the buildings. Comstock has the buildings. Please consider that in the logistics and the rankings, because moving those facilities and moving those children would be extremely difficult. Here at Santa Rosa, they also have a very thriving program. Please consider to keeping that as part of the rankings as something to keep those particular places open. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Next, we have Joe Reynolds, followed by Shia Wang, followed by Christina Kramer. Joe?
Hi, my name's Joe Reynolds. I am a CTE teacher here at Santa Rosa High School. I teach wood shop, moving into construction technologies. You see these sets behind you. My counterpart in the wood shop has built these sets that I designed with my 3D CAD class that I teach. I also teach manufacturing, the last manufacturing class in the entire county. This manufacturing class has an amazing metal shop. We have CNC machines. We have CNC plasma cutter. We have lots of different welders, MIG welders, TIG welders, arc welders, oxyacetylene welders. I'm teaching these kids amazing skills that they're going to be able to carry through and get great jobs. Every kid that I reach is a kid that is not going to be a gang member, not going to be a criminal, not going to be a drug dealer. They're going to get out of this program and get a great job that's going to pay well and add to this community.
Thank you, Joe. Your
Without
time
this
is up.
class,
Joe, your time is up. Thank you.
this manufacturing will not be able to be moved. It's too expensive.
Next, we have Shia Wang, followed by Christina Kramer, followed by Martha Rodriguez. Mr. Wang?
Dear committee, my name is Shu Wang. Our goal is to eliminate the gap between the district revenue and expense. We worked hard on the expense side, but I'm afraid we missed the revenue side, which is equally important. The number of students will leave the district caused by school closure will largely impact the revenue. We know that every 100 students leaving the district will reduce about $1 million revenue. To close which school will lead to different results. Closing a highly desired, highly ranked, high academic performing school will lose many more students, as people will have to find high academic performing schools in other districts. For example, closing Maria Carrillo High School will easily lose several hundred students, which means several $1 million. That includes current students and future students. So can you please have at least one criterion in your scoring matrix for that? Or just one criterion for academic performance, which is highly correlated. Thank you.
Thank you. And my apologies for the mispronunciation. Christina Kramer, followed by Martha Rodriguez, followed by Casey Elsa. Christina?
Hi, Christina Kramer. I'm a parent of a sophomore at Montgomery High School. I feel like the lone wolf today here on this campus. I just want to point out that I believe, and I agree with the earlier speaker, that criteria regarding some academics, criteria 14, 15, and 16 should be included in these rankings. Criteria 9 and 10 are not considering school facilities and improvements such as Montgomery's two-story building that's going to have 2 science labs and 17 new classes is not part of the analysis that you've been using in your criteria. Criteria 19 regarding traffic concerns and safe routes to schools is not accurate. High school age youth must be able to walk to school and find public transportation. Elsie Allen has a not applicable rating. Elsie is rural unincorporated, in which there are limited sidewalks, minimal street lighting. Bellevue, Todd Road, Stony Point, Moreland, Primrose. They do not have sidewalks. Unsafe for pedestrians with fast traffic. Additionally, this area's conditions
Thank you,
worsen in the
Christina. Your
winter.
time is up. Next, we have Martha Rodriguez, followed by Casey Elsa, followed by Eduro Avila.
Hola, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Marta Rodríguez. Tengo 2 hijas en Santa Rosa High School, un freshman y un senior. Yo solo quiero decir que tenemos excelentes maestros aquí que en su hora de lonche se toman tiempo para estar con sus alumnos. Espero que al momento de que ustedes piensen en nuestros maestros cuando tomen una decisión, porque Santa Rosa High School es una buena escuela con muy buenos maestros que han apoyado mucho a nuestros estudiantes. Gracias.
Thank you, Martha.
Okay, so she said, hi, my name is Marta Rodriguez. I have 2 daughters here at Santa Rosa High, a freshman and a senior. I just want to tell you guys that this school has the best teachers. The teachers take their time during their lunch to spend with their students, help them out. And I just want you guys to give Santa Rosa High a chance.
Thank you. Next, we have Casey Elsa, followed by Eudoro Avila, followed by Nathan Good. Casey?
Hello, my name is Casey Elson. I've been teaching at Santa Rosa High School for decades. I was surprised to see in the ranking criteria that Santa Rosa High School was listed as one of the most expensive schools to run in our district. I believe that this is misleading, though. Given that we have a number of CTE classes at Santa Rosa High School, it might appear as though we are more expensive than we really are. In fact, those CTE classes are funded by money that comes to us from the Career Technical Education Grant and from Carl's Perkins grants. Would we still receive these monies if the school closed? Would our barn, workshop, manufacturing, and ag facilities be movable to a new site? That's really hard to imagine. One thing I do know is it doesn't cost as much as the ranking criteria claims. Not to mention this, but the Santa Rosa High School Foundation has been funding our site for years. My programs have received tens of thousands of dollars alone. My daughter graduated from Santa Rosa High School and received a high scholarship to go to college, making it much more doable. We would lose this if we lost this school. Lastly, we're right next to the JC. So many of our students benefit from that, and they would not if we were closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. Next we have Eudoro Avila, followed by Nathan Good, followed by Deborah Tapia.
Muchas gracias. Voy a hablar en español porque estoy muy orgulloso de que Santa Rosa High School le da oportunidad a varias comunidades de diferentes partes del mundo y son bienvenidos todos y los tratan muy bien, lo cual agradezco a todo el personal de Santa Rosa High School. También me gustaría ver que todo el personal que se encarga del distrito pusiera más esfuerzo en pedir más fondos para la ciudad, para las escuelas de Santa Rosa y del condado de Sonoma en vez de querer cortar fondos para las escuelas. Quisiera que pusieran más empeño en los estudiantes y no en los recortes, sino que mover al Estado, al federal, para que apoyen más a los estudiantes y a las escuelas en lugar de andar cortando fondos para los estudiantes. Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
So thank you, everyone. I'd like to thank the district, and I'm thankful for the district and the staff here. I also want to tell the district that for them to have more funds instead of cutting funds, and that you should push the government to provide you guys with more funds. instead of cutting funds, cutting school funds. Because the students are important for everybody and they're the future for the county.
Thank you, Eudora. Next, we have Nathan Good, followed by Deborah Tapia De Martin, followed by Sam Coral. Nathan?
Hello, my name is Nathan Good. I am a proud parent of two Proctor Terrace Elementary Tigers, a sixth grader. He's been going there since kindergarten. He loves it. A fourth grader. He absolutely adores his school. Proctor Terrace is full of amazing programs, such as their garden program, amazing fundraisers like their walkathon, their readathon, Tiger Fest. They have a bike to school event every year. My two children love biking to school. They feel very, very safe. I just let them go in the morning. It is a safe school. I am here to implore you to please, Proctor Terrace sits on a dead, inactive fault. It is a completely safe school. It is a wonderful school. I implore you to not factor that into your decision when you are ranking which elementary schools to close, please. I implore you to keep Proctor Terrace Elementary School open.
Thank you, Nathan. Next, we have Deborah Tapia De Martin, followed by Sam Coral, followed by Jose P. Martinez. Deborah? Is Deborah not here?
Deborah? No, okay.
No? Okay. All right.
Oh, okay.
So next, then we have Sam Coral, followed by Jose P. Martinez, followed by Janelle Wanless.
Thank you.
Wallace. Okay. Sam?
I'm a proud parent of two graduates of Santa Rosa High School, one of whom went through and graduated from the video arts program and is now the president of the video club at the JC. So this is very near to my heart. My daughter also is a freshman as a visual fine artist. So the ArtQuest program is near and dear to me, and I would like to add to what the first speaker commented, which is we have many more facilities than are listed in the criteria that cannot be moved. The Black Box Theater, the dark room, the video studio with a green screen, the wonderful art studio. You can't move those things. This theater that we're in right now, obviously you cannot move this. And you will add that to the barn and the auto shop. And with all of those, you know, it wouldn't change our ranking as getting a 1 or a 2, but it gives us 7 facilities that can't be moved rather than 1 or 2. So I wanted to mention that. And then with my last 8 seconds, I wanted to say that this facility is built with more sound materials than some of the newer facilities, and we have to think about the
Thank you,
long-term
Carl.
costs.
Or Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jose P. Martinez, followed by Janelle Wallace, followed by Gary Lindsay. Or are you Deborah? No? I'm sorry?
That's Janelle.
Okay, is Jose not? Okay, no Jose. So yes, Janelle.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Janelle Wanless, a senior, and I'm here as a proud student athlete of Santa Rosa High, the oldest high school in Santa Rosa. This school is so much more than a place for learning. It's a piece of our community's history and a cornerstone of countless families' lives, including my own. Growing up, I attended school events here for my aunts and uncles, and I remember being so excited to one day walk the same halls they did. Now, as a student, I've experienced firsthand the sense of belonging, pride, and tradition that makes our school so special. Closing Santa Rosa High would mean losing not just a school, but a place filled with memories and opportunities for students like me and for future generations. I urge you to think about the impact this decision would have on our lives, our community, and our history.
Thank you, Janelle. And our last speaker is Gary Lindsay. Gary?
Hi. I'm Gary Lindsay, and I went to Montgomery for a semester and then to Annalee and graduated. But I'm going to talk about the culture here because it was the envy of every school. And we used to, I only have 50 seconds. We used to cut class just to come. And I want to know how you check off the value of culture. because now I have the pleasure of coming back as a consultant to the ArtQuest program. This theater inspired me to become a theater maker. The theater I saw here in the 80s, this theater inspired me to go do what I do. And I get to work with the ArtQuest kids every year. We go to Linnea Festival, a statewide festival, and win medals every year. They have for 15 years. The culture that still exists in the ArtQuest program saves lives. And I want to know how you put a value on that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, one last call for Deborah or Jose. Okay, then we will make a transition here in just a moment to the discussion portion and followed by the ranking by the committee. Okay, and we are at about 7:45. Okay. Yeah, okay, sure. We're going to take a 5-minute break, let everybody, and we may actually, we'll give probably about 7 minutes because we're very limited. We have one restroom out here. There's one back here for committee members and there's one for, yeah, it's
A little hard to navigate.
yeah. Okay, we'll start getting ready to have our discussion. Okay. All right, we have all of our committee members found their way back. Thank you. And so we are beginning again at 7:55. So this part is where we will go around and each table will share out kind of the key points of their discussion. And after we go through that piece, then we'll bring out each of the ranking lists for each group, and then we'll do some work from there if we still have some time. So if we want to start over here this time, please.
All right, I'll start. We actually started with the high schools and we were strictly using the criteria that we have here. And as we were going through, let me just grab my notes real quick. As we were going with the high schools, we saw that, I don't know where my notes are. We stuck to the, we started off with the highest ranking based on the rank score, which was Santa Rosa High School. And as we were navigating the ranking criteria, we started putting the map as well on the screen, and we started looking at it from a geographic perspective. And am I supposed to say how we rank the high schools, or are we supposed to? Okay.
So this is about the discussion.
Yeah, so we talked about equity. We brought back the metric criteria of academics. We talked about that a little bit. And then as we got deeper into the middle schools and elementary schools, we started to really look at the maps to see if we decide to close, if this committee, this table decides to close Montgomery High School, then we want to try to make sure we're not closing another school in that high school area. So I feel like geography became something important for our table, but we were really sticking to the criteria here based on the top 3 rank scores. And am I missing anything from our table? I mean, we have some intel from people who work in the district, which was also helpful in the discussion. And we also have the president of DLAC, which was also helpful in terms of the work that he's leading in the discussion. So that's kind of how we came up. That's what we were discussing.
And was it the same type of discussion for as you were looking at middle schools and elementary as well?
Yeah, we tried our best to stick to the criteria that we have.
Thank you. Anything
I
else?
also want to say we didn't vote completely to the ranking of the criteria, but we tried to stick to it as close as we could because geography did become something that was important to the table.
Does anybody else have anything you want to add to that, or are we?
No, it's what we discussed as a group, so you did a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you. And now if we move over to, no, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say with that discussion about geography, it was really about looking at what area that school served and what could happen if that school closed, where those students might go, if they might leave the district. So looking at the charter schools, we know they're magnets for students from other districts. If there's a school that was way out, that's drawing from a huge area, then where would those students go if that school closed? We're talking about stuff, considerations like that.
And I just want to give a little clarification. We had a committee member ask if we could ask questions back and forth across the tables. And I think that maybe so that we make sure that everybody has at least enough time to report out, we do that first. And then we can have some clarification across. Is everybody okay with that? A thumbs up or thumbs down? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Anything else to report here or moving on to the next? Okay. And we can always add if anybody thinks of something as we go.
I think our conversation was pretty close to this one. We looked a lot at a big concern of retention of students. It's, you know, the realism is that we're doing this to save money, but if we don't keep our students in our district, it's not going to work. So we talked about that quite a lot. We looked at all of the rankings, but really when we came down to it, our rankings are a little more holistic. We did look at retention. We looked at sort of what is the organic flow in the city in terms of where schools are located and where the families would be taking their students. We wanted to maintain a presence in all parts of our city with our schools, so that we took that into consideration. And we also, excuse me, we also took into consideration walkability, looking at the elementary schools, especially which one of them are really neighborhood schools that students walk to, that we know that the families walk there. Transportation availability, and then also sort of, we did have some data, but kind of the assumed mobility of the families at each site. So that was really the things that were top of our list. Anybody have something to add? No, we're good. Thank you.
Table over here.
I know I am. So we began our conversation by making just an acceptance of the fact that all of the people at this table are very emotionally tied to Santa Rosa City Schools in multiple ways, whether we're educators or parents that have had many children go through at all of our schools. And so we needed to come to some agreements of what we were going to be looking at and where we were going to prioritize. And so what we really prioritized is the task, which was a mandatory recommendation of ranking. And then we looked at the financial aspect of it. And so we tried to take all of our emotion out, because I think we could all agree that there are 1,000 reasons why every school should be removed from a ranking list in Santa Rosa City Schools. And so by trying to take that out, I think that we were able to really look at the financial aspect of schools, the cost of running of the school, the longevity of the cost of the school, what it would look like in 10 years, looking at capacity and areas of enrollment and what that was going to look like in 10 years. And so we also wanted to point out that we really looked at the sites, not the programs. And so we recognize that programs can be moved, and that it's our hope that by doing this ranking and through this process that we will be able to come back together and give some recommendations of what we think would be amazing to happen with the ranking process. And so, did I cover everything? Yeah, minimizing student and staff and family impact. So we put our little rationale on our board as well. Oh, and access to opportunities.
Make me talk, but they have things to say.
Thank you.
Okay, and our last group.
Okay, so similar themes, I think, in terms of how we approached as to what we're hearing going around here. We did start with all of the criteria. So a couple maybe different approaches. We started with trying to have a discussion around which of the criteria would we apply more weight to versus not applying weight to. And so of the 25 criteria minus 14, 15, 16, there's 22 criteria. 21 of those criteria were ranked yes, no. They just had a flat ranking. So if you just do an even, add them all up, even ranking across those 21 criteria, you get a score. Next way to look at it was to look at the 11 criteria that had more resolution and had, for example, 1 through 13 for the elementaries, 1 through 5, 1 through 4 for high schools and middles. And we added those up to get to a score. And then we looked at it, which is applies some weighting, but then misses out on 10 of the criteria. So then we looked at it, and you can tell it's a fairly analytic approach here, but then we looked at it as, okay, let's get all the criteria, but let's account for the areas that had more weight applied to them through the resolution there. So we added those up. So the ones that were just yes, no's versus the ones that had 1 through 13s, for example. And we had that ranking. Then we had two other ways we sort of looked at it. We said, okay, let's step back and would we look at this and apply any additional weight to any specific criteria in here? And so we looked at criteria 1, which was lowest enrollment, criteria 4, which was net transfers. And we ran a scenario where everything was rated evenly except for those two. And then that had weight on them. And then we also added into the mix after those two, the last two criteria, which were the most net savings, and then the sort of efficiency of highest per student operating costs. So those were the criteria that we then applied weight to. You guys did mention it over here briefly. We did have some discussion about, well, 14, 15, 16 is not officially in the loop here, but what sort of impact does it have? And we did have some discussion around that portion of it too. So in total here, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, five different ways to rank them. And each of the 5, we then looked at the top schools. So for the elementaries, for example, grab the top 6 in each of those 5 ways, and then kind of put those together to say which schools were coming up, bubbling up to the top of the list across the board with those 5 different ways to look at it. And based on that, averaged out. And at that point, we took a break and then stepped back and pulled out the map. And then this was the maybe less analytic side of things, but looked at the map and looked at things like, okay, what are the local impacts? If you close this school, what's the impact? Or 3 schools next to each other, what would that do? If you close this school, you need to balance things out. You need to look at transportation, walkability, and other sorts of things like that. So that's where we threw in those factors and then made some adjustments to the rankings. So there was a lot of dialogue, a lot of back and forth, but yeah, that's more or less how we went through it. Any other comments? And none of us like it. It's yeah, I just got to say that it's this whole thing. This is awful. And seriously, this is a terrible process that we're going through, and none of us are excited about any of these solutions. So I just want to throw that out there as well. Okay.
And so I know that we had questions back and forth that this, table wanted to ask, but maybe we go around and see if there's clarification or discussion between the table. So I know, we'll go back this way. Any questions for any of the other groups starting over here?
Yeah, sorry, the one question I had was, Herman, you mentioned that you did look at criteria 14, 15, 16, or you had some discussion on that. Can you maybe elaborate or share a little bit more about how that discussion was factored in or not?
Yeah. It was more their group, technically, they're just reminding me, but Adrian and I did talk about it, and I don't know if you want to say anything, Adrian, but I'll speak on what I was explaining to Adrian, because we were talking about the academic scores, and we're also talking about things we're not supposed to talk about, like the charter schools that exist in this district, but also exist in other districts. And you brought up the transfer rate for interdistrict transfers and intradistrict transfers. And if you look at that data, you have about 600 kids that leave Elsie Allen High School, and they have a magnet charter school in Roseland School District, which takes about 400 kids from Elsie Allen, which are the highest achieving kids from that high school. So when you're looking at academic scores across the district for high schools, it's unfair to compare Maria Carrillo to Elsie Allen High School when Elsie Allen High School has over 30% migrant students, over 30% students that have special education needs, and the district that is taking all the high achieving students doesn't allow students with IEPs. So that's what we were talking about when we were talking about criteria 14, 15, and 16. We weren't talking about bringing it in. We were talking about why it's important to keep it the way it is.
Anybody have any questions for other groups or clarification, discussion before we bring up kind of the 4 different posters to look and begin seeing if there are commonalities? I know this is really rough and thank you. I know that these are all really difficult discussions and recommendations.
Sorry, and I just want to remind everyone, this is not a decision that's happening. So assuming we're able to get to a consensus on a rank order, that is not a decision. It is also not a decision on the 311 scenario. It's not final. And I just want to say that as many times as possible. The board will be making the decision actually in February. This is just informing, giving them information, giving them some scenarios to look at. So I just really want to make sure everyone understands whatever comes out of this is not a decision.
I just wanted to say that we did discuss the importance of having a high school, 2 high schools, maybe on the west side. But the fact that students are not wanting to go to LC Allen because of the transfer rate is a sign that our district is not making that an attractive place for students. And so they are being drawn to the charter. And I don't know what should be done about that, but we did talk about the fact that perhaps our district is casting too wide a net over the city, and we can't meet all the needs of these students.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion from the committee before we begin pulling the posters up to see for commonalities?
Since we're talking about the impact of out-of-district transfers, I just want to point out that that is a problem at the middle school level as well in terms of looking at schools that may have low enrollment. We have really successful waitlist or a really successful waitlist middle school charter option outside of our district, where many of our Santa Rosa City school kids attend and have been. So it's not a high school just a high school issue.
Thank you.
I'm going to take an opportunity to just point out that regarding 14, 15, and 16, which is the academic assessment aspect of ranking, I would just encourage anyone who's really interested in digging into that to open up those report cards for each school in Santa Rosa and not just looking at that front page, but going in to each section. What you will see is that every school in Santa Rosa is increasing and improving every year. And so please do not just look at the front page that shows you red and orange and green and yellow and blue, but open it up and take a look at every school, because you'll see that every school is doing better than they did last year or the year before, because the tests are based off of last year. And I have a feeling they're going to get better this year too.
Anything else from the committee? Oh, okay. Okay, so probably going to need some help as we do this here. We might need, yes, let's see, or maybe because I want to make sure that Jessica can continue with minutes. So yes, if I can get some, sure, that would be fantastic if you can, Vanna White. And we're going to use this as our master and I have the same thing. So what each of the groups had were Post-its with every school. And what they were asked to do is to rank in order each of the high schools, each of the middle schools, and then to at least kind of create buckets at the elementary level for kind of the top ones as far as to be considered for recommendation for closure, kind of the middle ground, and then here are some that we would that we would rank at the bottom. And so the charters were ranked with the elementary. So just so everybody understands what the directions to the committee was to do. So now what we'll do is we'll lay these up here, and then we have the same thing. We have a poster board, and we have Post-its to see if there's something that rises to the top that's the same on all four. So we'll start there. Yeah. Thank you, Lisbeth, for coming up. That's well, I think we're trying to figure out a way. Nobody's going to be able to see from all the way out there, so we're going to read them as we go through this. Let's see, maybe one more chance. Sorry, this is what happens when we try to do an extra meeting on a Friday evening in a very limited space. Oh, I would not. No, please do not. Thank you. No. Thank you. Okay. Oh, blue tape. Do we have? Yep. Blue tape. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so as we're getting these put up, and look around and look at okay. It may not. So I can read them off as we go through, if we can just kind of have them all at least kind of spread out. So on this one over here, if we start at the high school level, it's Montgomery and then Elsie, and then Santa Rosa, Maria Carrillo, and then Piner. On this one, we have Montgomery and Elsie, it looks like are tied, and then Piner, Santa Rosa, and then Maria Carrillo. Okay. Over here, we have Montgomery number 1, Santa Rosa High and Piner tied for number 2, with Maria Carrillo and Elsie tied for number 3. On this one here, we have Elsie Allen, then Santa Rosa High, then Montgomery, then Piner, then Maria Carrillo. Okay, so are there any that are the same in the top 2 across the board? And it does not look like we have that. So we have Montgomery listed in the top 2 on 1, 2, 3. And we have then Elsie listed in the top 2 on 1, 2, 3. Okay. Next, is there a Santa Rosa High in the top 2 anywhere? Yes, here, and yes, here. Okay. Maria Carrillo looks like is at the highest ranking is a number 3 for Maria Carrillo, so it's not in the top 2 on any of them. And then Piner, we have number 3, number 5, number 2, and number 4. So as we're looking through here, it looks like Piner and Maria Carrillo are towards the bottom of the list. You can go ahead and set this down for now. Thank you. Does the committee want to have discussion about that? Are there concerns about, for now, putting Carrillo and Piner towards the bottom? Doesn't mean that we're at a set ranking, just a question about that we start talking about the other 3 order first. Is that a consensus yes, that we can do that? Okay. So just a moment. So if I can have you pull out Maria Carrillo and Piner, and we're going to put those down here next to, on this one, down here next to each other. Maria Carrillo and Piner. Okay. Then the next question would be, is there anybody who would like to talk about reasoning or thoughts on the other 3 as far as Montgomery, LC or Santa Rosa High.
This is similar to the point I made earlier, but for me, and one thing we talked about in our group extensively was that the transfer rate is really important and people are fleeing certain schools. That's not necessarily for reasons that I would consider, good, but it's a fact and you can't force people to go to a school. They will leave the district or they will do what they need to do. So.
I'll echo that and just, we were really focusing on the goal, which is the money and being able to be fiscally in a strong place, not just breaking even, but like looking at strength. And the transfer out rate was pretty compelling. We were looking at LC Allen High School, and many of those schools are going to another district. Many of them are going to other high schools within our district as well. So it's not just for another district. So it was hard to ignore. It was a number we couldn't ignore.
And to a point that was made earlier, any of our high schools that don't have a proper feeder system to feed it students, for long-term stabilization of enrollment, it just is tough. And the data shows that in 2029, 30, we're going to be in another tough situation because we don't have enough high school kids across the district. So if we save all 5, we're still going to have to close one, and we're going to be back here and upset the whole community in 2 years. And LC, we talked about, has the direct threat of a charter school that has been threatening. I went to Cook Junior High School and it's closed. And the district I'm talking about, and I was a Roseland kid, K through 6, not trying to throw shade, but that district killed my middle school. And it's been killing LC Allen for 20 years. It killed the feeder. And if CCLA has to move, there's no feeder. And looking at the data with 639 kids, after the 85 that have come in, maybe that were thrown back to that school from the other charter school, we got to make a long-term decision. And whatever we do for any of these kids, like, are unfortunately having to change their education environment, we need to make sure that they have an opportunity to have something that's more access and an opportunity wherever they're going. And so if it's, I was thinking about this, if an LC Allen student, they don't have a JV team on a program, and I was thinking if I was an LC kid and I was going to either Pine, and there was no LC Allen, I would have gone to LC Allen. And actually, you and I both would have gone to LC Allen, and there was no LC Allen. So we went to Montgomery and Piner, because if you were on the west side of Stony Point, you went to Piner. If you're on the east side of Stony Point, you went to Montgomery. And I'm glad I did. Had a great education. And you did at Piner. And those schools both have teams, JV teams, varsity teams. I'm thinking of sports. And they can have more access and opportunity to things that are thriving. And anyway, none of these decisions are great, but it's just painful that there's no feeder and that they are under direct assault from the neighboring charter school that is siphoning off their children. And I think we need to do whatever is the most long-term, stably, fiscally responsible thing. And I don't want to be here in 2 years having this conversation again.
Thank you.
I just want to bring it back to the criteria, and LC Allen was not in the top 2 in the criteria, and that's part of the reason why our group ranked the way we ranked. But to Mr. Haas's point and Ms. Geary's point, Southwest Santa Rosa has been historically disadvantaged and forgotten for decades. And to shut down a school is just to continue to perpetuate the problem that has always existed in Southwest Santa Rosa. And the majority of those 600 students are actually going to RUP, which has to renew their charter in a year. Those kids are going to have to go to another district because this school board is going to have to make a very difficult decision in allowing them to recharter, which I think, given declining enrollment and the situation that we're currently in, it does not benefit the district to reauthorize a charter school. And I don't know of any other charter school of that size in the school district. It's the only one. So to be, again, comparing, I think somebody mentioned that there's other competing charter schools in the district, and to be comparing it to the Roseland School District is just not, it's not apples to apples. And going back to the reasons why the president of DLAC, Mr. Juarez Cruz, and I were talking about the academic unfairness and using that as a metric, is because RUP's only been there for 12 or 14 years. And you look at the data, and there's been declining enrollment at Elsie Allen High School, and it's hovered around 1,000 students for those 12 or 14 years. So I just want to reemphasize something that I said, I think, in meeting 2 or 3, that Southwest Santa Rosa has been historically disrespected for decades. And I really don't want to see what happened with the Doyle campus happen again in another area that's majority people of color and majority low income students and families.
Thank you. Kathy? Turn blue. Press it once.
To follow up on Herman Hernandez's points, in looking at the students currently that Elsie Allen serves. And we can make some, depending upon decisions that the school board makes, that may change the complement of who Elsie Allen, if it survives, serves in the future. Right now, Elsie Allen's over 50% of its students are English language learners or individuals with special needs. So it means that the majority of the students at that school need additional services of one kind or another. On top of that, they're oftentimes the students that have the least ability to be mobile. And so in looking at, if Elsie Allen closed, Santa Rosa City Schools would no longer have any physical presence in the Southwest. Well, CCLA is there, but CCLA is going to have to move. So it means that if a student wants to attend Santa Rosa City Schools, they will have to travel somewhere else in the city to go to school. And I look at the population that we currently serve, and what we're saying is we, as a community, don't have any problem with having kids walking more than 5 miles each way to school. We don't have any problem with kids being on a bus 1.5 to 2 hours in the morning each way to school. And from a conscious standpoint, personally, my personal values, that is a very, very tough thing to swallow. So I'll leave it at that.
I agree with everything that was said in terms of the generational disenfranchisement of Southwest Santa Rosa. And here we are. I know this on a very personal level because that's where I grew up and went to school. And here we are tasked with ranking. So Unfortunately, in this moment, we don't really have the option to say, we're not going to choose to rank. This is kind of the task. And looking at the number of students, one of our filters was minimizing impacts to number of human beings. And by far the lowest enrollment, and so the least amount of students who would need to be moved in their junior, sophomore, junior, senior year, that's, I think, of relevance. And unfortunately, the decisions made that have put LC Allen, Southwest Santa Rosa, Cook Middle School in the position to not be thriving are not going to be remedied in the time that we need to turn the ship here. And so if you look at evidence-based recommendations for equitability and school consolidation, you move kids from schools into more opportunity to engage in athletic opportunities. And then you do the work to make it right in those areas that you maybe previously didn't serve as well as you should have. But the timetable that I'm seeing is not allowing us to bolster those programs in those areas if the decision is asked of us today.
One more, and then if we can have a quick discussion, and then.
So can I hear it for Google Sheets? Do people like Google Sheets in here? I just took all the data here, and if we're just following the rankings of what we just recommended as tables, Montgomery is 1.5, LC Allen High School is 1.75. So Montgomery is actually the lowest ranked high school, so technically they would be the people that we recommend for closure. I just want to do the math. No one did the math, but I did the math on my Excel sheet, and it's, I could read it out if you guys would like me to, but LC Allen Montgomery's 1.5, LC Allen 1.75, Santa Rosa 2.5, Pioneer 3, Maria Carrillo 4.
So quick question of the committee, consensus up or down, or more discussion. Do we want to continue to have a discussion here? Do we want to pause on high school for a few minutes and move on to doing kind of the same exercise with middle and elementary, and then come back with either a consensus from the group to look at data number, the averages for ranking, or dots, because we do have dots if we want to have individual to then take a look at and then come back and have another discussion. So show of thumbs, yes or no, as far as continue high school discussion right now. Okay. Yeah, sounds like we have some emotion. We'll move on from that for a little bit. We do have that these are the three that we'll be talking about, because the two here will be more towards the bottom, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so as we look at middle schools, it looks like Rincon Valley is in the bottom 3 or 4, because we have a couple of, here we have tied for 1 as Santa Rosa Middle and Herbert Slater, tied for 2, Comstock and RVMS. On this one, we have Comstock, Santa Rosa Middle, Slater, and then Rincon. And over here, we have Santa Rosa Middle, Slater, Comstock, and RVMS. So Rincon Valley falls to the bottom on each of them, either the bottom 1 or 2. Are we okay with putting Rincon Valley as number 4 in rankings of middle school? Can I get a show of thumbs up or down? Okay. Thank you. Now, if we look at next, we have, if we're going from the bottom to the top, we have Comstock at number 3, Comstock at number 3, and Comstock tied for number 3 over here. Nope. Oh, sorry, wrong. I looked at it wrong. This one, Comstock is number 1. So we don't have a consensus. We have 3 out of 4. Now let's take a look at the next one. We have Slater as number 2. Slater is number 2. Slater is number 3, and Slater is number 2. And we have Santa Rosa as number 1, number 2, and number 1. So it looks like Santa Rosa is in the top 2 on all, was it all? On top 2 on all of them. So are we okay with Santa Rosa Middle being number 1? Thumbs up, down, or sideways for more conversation? So we have, sorry, I can't see everybody over here. Do we have side over here? It looks like maybe we need a little more discussion about Santa Rosa Middle as number 1 or 2. It does look like it falls into that top 2. So any discussion that we have, and remember, this is a recommendation to the board. This is not a decision of this committee. Okay, this is the committee coming to consensus on the best recommendation based on all of the different information that you've talked about tonight. This is not a final, and it's not something that the committee is doing. This is you making a recommendation based on a charge given to you, a very difficult one. Yes.
I'm having a hard time keeping track. I'm sure they're having an even harder time. But if it's not Santa Rosa Middle School, what is sort of it tied with? I mean, what is its competitor, nearest competitor?
Okay. So nearest competitor looks like Slater, because we have Slater as number 2,
Okay.
Slater is number 2, number 3, and number 2.
Okay. And I would also, if I can right now, I think the idea of closing Comstock, and full disclosure, I used to work there, but not for a long time. It's been at least 15 years. I think closing Comstock is not a possibility. Right now, it is our only public middle school on the west side of town. CCLA does not count as a public middle school because it is a charter and you have to apply, and there, you can't necessarily get in there. So I think Comstock should be number 3. And I think if we're looking at these Post-its, I think that we're going to have to figure out which is first and second between Santa Rosa and Slater, but I don't think Comstock should be in consideration for number 1.
Okay, show a thumbs up to have Comstock as number 3. Do you have a comment?
I just want to make a quick comment that, just to clarify, our thinking when we talked about our picks was that we only have 2 middle schools that can have an alternate use. So if you're going to close a school that is in somebody else's, if you're going to close a middle school that's in somebody else's elementary school district, what are you going to do with it? If we, next on the 27th, are planning on coming up with scenarios, because this is not the creative meeting, this is the ranking meeting. You can get pretty creative with what you could do with Santa Rosa and Comstock, because there are only 2 properties that we can run a K-8. I just went to 2 town halls and I saw lots of K-8 stuff. Only 2 sites can run a K-8. And I was told at the last meeting, you can't have that conversation until you close it. So I'm confused that we can't get creative if it still exists as a 7-8, that you have to close it, and then you can talk about what you want to do with it, was what I was told 2 meetings ago.
So I think some clarification,
Yeah.
It's the district advisory committee that taught, so there's a couple things. The charge from here is to provide rankings for closure, but also the board does want alternative scenarios. And so in that, it doesn't have to be this with that school, that with that side. It's here's our number 1 alternative scenario. Here's our, number 2, and please keep these things into consideration, or you can, suggest, And we suggest that the board consider a combination of, or, you know, if there's consensus on a specific site, great. But the charge is to first provide rankings for the foreclosure. But those other scenarios, as far as what that looks like, may vary based on what scenario the board goes with. This is to provide guidance to the board on your feedback. So if we were looking at, so for this conversation right here, if you're thinking just straight closure, what would that be? And then you can add in the report specific nuances to that if the committee comes to an agreement as a whole as to what that looks like. Does that help?
Nothing in these meetings helps, but yes, that helps. I'm sorry.
I understand.
I've taken analysis notes there every time I leave a meeting. Okay.
Thank you.
I agree that Slater should be at, I'm sorry, that Comstock should be at number 3. Reasoning being that we only have one middle school on the west side of town. And so, oh, sorry. So by by closing or the consolidation of Comstock into somewhere else, all of the students on the west side no longer have a school on the west side of town.
Okay. So are we okay to go back to that consensus? Are we okay with Comstock being number 3? Looks like the vast majority is yes. So consensus. Sorry, these are really sticky. Do we feel ready to have the conversation as far as ranking number 2 and number 1, or do we want to pause and put them next to each other and move on to elementary? So continue with middle, if I can have thumbs up. Looks like we're kind of split, but maybe we can try for okay, some more. Okay, so again, now we're back with Slater and Santa Rosa Middle. And as we look at these, we have Santa Rosa number 1, Slater number 2, 1 Santa Rosa, 2 Herbert Slater, 1 Comstock. So that one's now out. Santa Rosa is number 2 on this one, and number 3 is Slater. And on this one, we have Santa Rosa and Slater as tied. So in that respect, it looks like Santa Rosa Middle School in that ranking comes up as the number 1 with Slater as the number 2. Is everybody okay? Can we live with Santa Rosa Middle, Herbert Slater, Comstock, and RVMS in that order? Is that a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or more discussion needed? Looks like we're close to consensus, but it looks like we really need a little more discussion on that. Anybody have something that you want to share to help the committee come to consensus?
I think this is off topic the same way that Ross thought it was a little off topic, but it's really almost impossible to separate the idea of closing a school and the repurposing of that school, right? I mean, Slater is not in our elementary district. It's very limited what we could do with it if it was not being used for 7th and 8th graders. Santa Rosa Middle School, and this, I mean, this, this is awful. All of this is terrible, but Santa Rosa Middle School has more repurposing ability. It could be used for elementary, it can be used for secondary, it could be used for an alternative site, it could be used for the district office if we really wanted it to be. And that's a whole other topic. But it has a lot of options that Slater does not have. Also, I think closing Slater is going to push those students not further into our city, but further out to the competing districts who already have their charter middle schools either up and running or probably written down somewhere ready to go, right? And I don't think that that is going to be helpful to the bottom line.
Any thoughts from anyone else? Oh, I thought you were reaching for the microphone. Those look delicious. I haven't had to try them yet. Thank you to Kathy. Okay, are we ready to take a consensus vote again? Thumbs up or thumbs down for Santa Rosa Middle as number 1 and Slater as number 2? So it's a consensus. It's not a straight vote, but the reality is that this is all going to be a recommendation from the committee as a whole. It's not broken down by votes for that reason. So yes, we do have a majority for Santa Rosa Middle as number 1, Slater 2, Comstock 3, and Rincon Valley as number 4. Okay. Thank you. I know that was super, super hard, but you have one of the 3 charges completed for now. Okay. Thank you. Okay, now as we move on to elementary, can I get elementaries, please? Thank you. Okay, let's take a look here. We have, and I'm just gonna look at the top 3 and see where we have any overlap. So we have Steel Lane, Brook Hill, Biella, Brook Hill, Biella, Steel Lane, Biella, Steel Lane, Lincoln with Brook Hill number 4, Burbank, Biella, Steel Lane, and then Brook Hill as number 4. So it looks like we have Steel Lane and Biella look like in the top 2 on all of them. So they're in that top ranking because remember we have buckets here. So is everybody okay? It sounds like with Biella and Steel Lane being in that top bucket. Okay. So now let's look at the next. We have, if we take out those 2, then we're at the next 2 are Brook Hill and Lincoln. We have Brook Hill, Lincoln, and Lehman as far as Lincoln and Lehman tied or in that second bucket. Here we have Burbank. Where's Lincoln? Way down there. Okay. So Brook Hill's fair. I guess I'm not sure what the buckets are on this one. Is it, sorry if I can get some clarification on some buckets on the elementary, top down, and then that way, so you kind of, oh, you did. I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay. So it looks, how about we throw it out there? How is, because I'm seeing Brook Hill kind of all over. Brook Hill, would that, if we're looking at 13, probably 4, 4, and 5. As far as those different categories, does that sound agreeable as far as buckets? Top 4, top, then middle 4, and then 5 at the bottom as far as the buckets, as far as, because elementary, there's so many different factors as far as how the boundaries, you know, the impacts of that. So we're looking for some more buckets in that area. Or do we want to do 4, 4, and 5, or do we want to change that up to something different? Comment from the committee. So we would be looking at, okay, the first bucket of consideration, here are the schools that we would recommend. So we know that we have multiple, you know, 3 is the standard scenario is 3 elementary, but we want to give some wiggle room. And also some of the other scenarios that the alternative scenarios do close more than that. So it's helpful if we go further down in that. So it's kind of a, okay, these 4 or 5, however we want to rank that, are the ones that we can, yep, this group, we would say yes. Then the next one is, oh, if we have to go that deep. And then the last one is we would rather not. At least 3 in the top bucket, preferably when we think of 13 of them, we're thinking probably like 4 or 5 in the top bucket. Sure. Okay, third most common, let's kind of go through here. All right, so we had, I'm going to put some up here just in Brook Hill, yeah, is next, it looks like. And how about if we start with that? Is everybody okay with Brook Hill being in that next set? Are we on in this first set, consensus for that, or no's, or more discussion? Okay, it looks like Brook Hill consensus is in the top bucket, the top 4 or 5. Okay. Okay. And then next over here, we have Lincoln. Lincoln is in the, so if we have Brook Hill, Yale and Sterling, Lincoln and Lehman are in the next. Same thing over here, Lincoln and Lehman. Here we have Lincoln and then CCLA. And then over here, we have Lehman and Monroe. Do we have some discussion or thoughts on any of that? I know it's weird when we're looking at the elementaries, it's hard. And if you want me to hold one of the posters up for you to see or move out of the way. Which one did you want to see? That one?
Kind of right.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Do we have discussion that we want to have on all of these? Yes.
One of the things our group talked about is the community schools that are big walkers. And if we were to consolidate certain schools, the cost it would take for transportation. And so right now you're talking about Lincoln and what were the other ones?
It looks like Lincoln and Lehman.
I would just want to discuss those schools and what the community is around them and to discuss how transportation cost is going to affect that because bottom line, we're looking at money.
What are the 3 that you put over?
Steel Lane, Biella, and Brook Hill.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
One thing we talked about for Lincoln, I think that's the only school, not the only site maybe, but they don't have any busing because they all walk across the street. So because they were close to 2 other schools that they could feed into, and you wouldn't actually have much of a route. There'd be 1 bus parked or 2 bus parked, and they walk across the street, they're all on the bus, and there's no route. The bus just goes to wherever they're going to. So it's not going through the neighborhoods, and we thought that was a more affordable busing scenario. But the other question really is that the students that are currently at Lincoln have different needs altogether. And that's the thing, is that a lot of kids that are getting bused there, they have different buses, and it's a different that population, the school's configured with a different population, and that was done to keep the doors open. So when you look at the population, you have to realize that putting groups of kids there keep the school viable. And we put that into our consideration.
So yeah, specifically, we have certain schools that have high concentrations of students who are receiving special education services. And I just want to be really clear that those students are by rights of being general education students first and foremost, who then receive special education services, are by federal law and by, good faith meant to be served in their home school, the school that is closest, most convenient, where their siblings go, maybe where their parents and families before them went. And so there's a huge piece, that we have discussed, just for those of you in the audience to know that this is not the first time that this has come up. It concerns me in terms of all the discussions around equity that we've had. It would concern me to have multiple schools that have high concentrations of students in special education. And I've been pretty clear about the fact that when you, another term for having high concentrations of students with special education services in one school is segregation. And that is of concern, I think, on multiple levels. In the unfortunate task that we have here tonight, it is always a fiscal concern around the specific transportation costs, because it is the home schools who absorb that cost, and it's very nuanced and complicated. And I think that I've said many times that I would encourage the district to keep looking at the policies. My understanding is, and the number that was shared with us, that there are at least 150, possibly closer to 200 or more students who receive special education services within all of the district that are not served at their home schools. And that should be a concern to all of us. It should also be a concern for all of us moving forward, that historically disabled students and the services that they receive are wildly underfunded from the state and federal levels, and that's slated to get significantly worse starting very soon here. And it's just something that we all need to be holding at a much higher level of awareness than what we currently do. So for the power that we have right here, the best we could do is just to be conscious of, while these are sort of technically programs where classrooms could be moved other spaces, that there be really careful consideration of how that is done, and that these students are very likely multiply marginalized. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
I don't know.
This, that was on.
You just want me to read the top three? So here's how it is. So it's.
Okay, so
Steel Lane has an average score of 1.25. Albert Biela has an average score of 1.5. Brook Hill has an average score of 225. Abraham Lincoln has an average score of 3. Helen Lehman has an average score of 4.5. James Monroe has an average score of 4.75.
Can I ask, we're wondering, sorry, I just jumped in because we're confused. Herman, can you help explain what it is you're doing with the numbers? Like, where those, yeah, I don't think all of us caught it. Thank you.
I am just using what the ranking score here is in the order that you did. So if you're at the top, you're a 1. If you're at the bottom, you're whatever the bottom number is. But because some people didn't actually score the charters, they don't really have a score. Then the ones where you have different levels, this top level is a 1, second level is a 2, third level is a 3, fourth level is a 4. And then this group did it in sequential order, which I wish my group would have done the same thing, but we didn't. And we are same rule where it's like level 1 If you're at the top, you're a 1. If you're in the middle, you're a 2. And if you're on the third row, you're a 3.
After Steel Lane, Biella, and Brook Hill, who are the next 3 on your rankings, Herman? Sorry.
Abraham Lincoln, Helen Lehman, and James Monroe.
Okay.
I think we all agreed that one of the schools in the triangle has to stay open. I mean, the kids got to go to one of those schools. So if you're closing Biella and then you got Lehman or Monroe, there are 3 schools that are really close to each other. So one of them has to stay. I know that I don't know. I know that Lehman just had a ton of work done, has a lot of space. One of the things that I think popped my eyes open when we looked at these sheets in the second or third committee was that the portables blew my mind that 50% of Biella was portable. And that was like, it's a cute little school, but 50%, it's like 10 portables in 11 real buildings. So when we look at, again, long-term viability, I think we need to be responsible on where we can house and do the least amount of new construction because we can't spend a ton of money. And so I will point out Steel Lane, Biella, and Brook Hill are in that top. So can we come to one more that we would add in this top tier? So sounds like we have concerns about putting Lehman or Monroe in there that were raised because you have a triangle of schools right there. Am I accurately stating that? So Lincoln, Lehman, Monroe. So, okay, let's have a thumbs up, thumbs down on each of those. So Lincoln, thumbs up or thumbs down? Whether Lincoln, so we have 3 schools that we're talking about right now, Lincoln, Lehman, or Monroe. And we're just going to go through 1, 2, 3 as far as each of them up or down so that we can maybe eliminate one of them, or one of them is a yes, mostly across the board. So Lincoln, thumbs up, thumbs down. Top bucket. We're talking top bucket right now. So thumbs up or thumbs down for Lincoln in the top bucket.
Can I just ask, because it'll affect my vote, even though it's a top bucket, are we still indicating 1 through 4?
No. Not necessarily. I mean, you can if the committee comes to a consensus that we want to do that. Again, we are a little after 9 o'clock right now, so I want to do a time check for us. Because
I just feel like no one
we're not. I don't think we're going to get all the way through this tonight, and I think we're probably knowing the time that the committee has typically wanted to end in the past. I know way earlier, but 9 o'clock to 9:30 has been really the max time. So I wanted, how about we do a time check before we continue the discussion? Thoughts from anyone? Want to throw it out there? Because I don't think we're going to get through all of this tonight. So what we will do is we will save our work, obviously, and we will start on the 27th with this and then move into the alternate scenarios and the draft report. So we have somebody said 9:15. Anybody have something different? 9:30.
I'd be good with 9:30 as well.
So consensus for 9:30? Okay, we have consensus for 9:30. All right. Okay, so thank you. Yes, Catherine.
I would like to propose that our top bucket be only 3 schools.
Only 3.
And that we number them 1, 2, 3. And the rest, we could decide to put 4 more schools in other buckets. I think my group didn't rank the charters because we don't think any of them should be closed.
Okay.
So I don't know if we're going to have
that's helpful for
bucket of charters at the bottom. I don't know, but because of the 3-1-1 formula, that is not a decision. but a recommendation. I think we should have 3 in the top and number them 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Everybody, it looked like I just kind of looked around and saw we had consensus to do that. Okay, great. Thank you. That's huge, huge right there. So as we now within these 3, back to, so, okay, so we have 1, 2, 3 here. Are we ready to move on to the next set and then we'll rank these as 1, 2, which order? Okay, great. So if I can get the blue tape so I can, yeah, please, thank you. Okay, so now how many do we want to go into the next set? Do we want to do 3 more and actually have 4 levels? Do we have a consensus for that or? Yep.
I like to propose that the 3 schools we were just discussing, the Lincoln, Lehman, and Monroe, be our second tier.
Okay.
I just am wondering why we have to have a second tier.
Because the board really, if there's a reason, because when we look at logistics and things like that, when we have all of these other scenarios also, it would be really helpful to go further because yes, we have our top 3, but there may be a reason that the board chooses not to select one of those 3. And then if they, or 2 or all 3, and then you've not provided any further direction past that. So it is, we do recommend, that's part of why we recommended ranking all of them, all of the high schools in the middles is because there's only a few. And so we kind of thought, okay, buckets maybe on the elementaries to make that a little bit easier.
I would like to not put Lincoln, Lehman, and Monroe because that would be every elementary school on the northwest side of town in the 2 top buckets.
And so what I will say with that is, and I understand that, and so this is up to the committee, but I want to throw something out there just as a thought process on that. If you do put those in there, then that is really that, okay, we know that 1 or 2 of those need to be closed. And so then that gives some prioritization to the board and that it doesn't mean that they're going to say, oh, those are the top 6 and we're going to close all, it wouldn't necessarily be that. You can write that into the report as far as your reasoning or your recommendation. So just throwing that out there, because remember now that once we get to the actual, yeah, there's ranking, but you can provide some information that goes along with that. So we had a proposal over here from Janine to put those next 3 in that next layer. And Andrea is saying no. So since that was the first one, do we have a consensus up or down? Was it Lincoln, Lehman, and Monroe that we were just discussing into the next bucket? So is that a yay, a nay, more discussion? Okay, it looks like we need some more discussion because we're pretty split.
I would like to take Lehman out just because of the amount of construction that is happening around Lehman within walking distance. And the fact that they just approved 800 more units to go on Guerneville and Lance, which is literally across the street from Lehman. And that's going to be apartment and condo, which I think will bring in more families with smaller children.
I know, Tammy, you were waiting for a minute there.
So when we were working in our group, we were working with what we believed was the direction 113 and didn't realize that we needed to create another section. If we had, the placement of those might be different because once we did the 3, yes, once we did the 3, we couldn't come to a consensus on the others and might have spent more time had we known we needed to do 1, 2, 3 to have these other options.
Okay.
So I think we should be able to have opportunity to rank ours.
Okay. Okay, so we'll come back to you in a second. Yes? Uh-huh. Anna?
I just want, I think this one's dying. Okay, I just wanted to point out for Biella, they're actually just putting in their brand new blacktop and a whole new ADA compliant park or their playground, which this is the first time in 30 plus years. Also, the reason why we had so many portables was because it was growing. A lot of those portables are also on a foundation. I think people a lot of the time forget that BL is there because it's tucked in. It's away from Marlowe, which is crazy busy. It also has a multi-purpose room, which Helen Lehman doesn't have. So I think I get it, but I just kind of wanted to speak on that we have a lot of special education that goes to that school too. So I understand, but all of these things are happening like now. And it's like, it just kind of breaks my heart. It really does. I don't like any of this. Everybody knows that. None of us like this, but there are actual construction happening. Montgomery had it now, and this just kind of seems kind of like a slap in the face, but it is what it is. I just wanted to make that. And also they don't have any busing at Biella either. So that would have to be taken into consideration.
Thank you. Okay. So when we come back to ranking of those three, we can have more of that discussion if the committee feels that that's necessary. Janine, you had your hand.
I'll be honest, it's been a long day. And I think right now the discussion for the tier going on, I think really needs fresh eyes. And I'd honestly like to put a pause at the work we've done and start fresh at the next meeting to complete elementary.
Okay, I'm coming back to the committee because we had consensus for 9:30. Is everybody feeling like we're hitting a kind of a roadblock in discussion right now?
I think,
What I was asking was, or actually here, let's go ahead and let you speak, Catherine.
I'm still willing to stay till 9:30. I agree that we should put a pause on elementary because it seems like we aren't ready to finish. But I would like to go back and revisit high school so we can get that a little more settled because 3 out of 5 schools still in an uproar is too many for me.
Okay, consensus from the group to pause elementary for a few minutes, kind of or until next meeting, because we've only got 15 minutes left, and let that marinate, and then have some more discussion about high school. Consensus, yay to pause? Okay, consensus has that we pause on elementary for now. Okay. So back to high school. My question is, do we want to have some discussion, or would everybody like a spend a dot on a different sheet to see where that comes out and if that provides the next step? So question for more discussion first, consensus up or down? Okay, that's pretty split. How about who wants to spend a dot first?
I just feel like the high school discussion was a little bit more, I don't know how to say this, but there was more discussion that was a little bit like more disagreeing versus the other two levels. So I would actually rather all of us, because I'm with Dr. Wilson, I'm kind of tired. And I'd rather talk about that one at the beginning of the next session, but I don't have a problem with seeing like the straw vote or the sticker vote. And I was also going to make a recommendation, but I don't know if this is like something that you have to talk to the consultant about, but I do think it would be kind of interesting to make the committee recommendation, and then each one of us, we do like an anonymous survey where we vote, and then the the Board of Supervisors. No, the school district board members get the committee vote and then individual votes.
I'm sorry, no, because this is a Brown Act committee, so we can't do anonymous.
So then not anonymous and make it public on how we rank the individual schools.
So I would leave that up to the committee as far as whether you feel comfortable ranking schools, ranking your dots, putting your initials on them or something or not. Thumbs up or thumbs down as far as identifying your dots. Typically, that is not how we do the straw poll. That's usually, because that's the whole point in having a consensus is about reaching consensus, not a vote. That was something decided as a norm of this committee when we first began. Is there anybody else who disagrees with that interpretation of how the committee was moving forward as far as consensus? It's okay. It's okay. I understand. I think we all, no, it's fine. I saw some real discomfort around and I can understand that absolutely. Okay, so we're retracting that. Yeah, so yes, Catherine.
I can be tired with everyone else. Before we leave this room, I need Santa Rosa High School to not be number 1 or number 2. I don't think any of us ranked it up there, maybe 1. I think closing Santa Rosa High School is not an option that this committee should be putting forward. And I would like to see the Santa Rosa High School sticky note move down in between those groups, or if it can't go all the way to the bottom, it needs to at least be somewhere in the middle, because I don't think closing Santa Rosa High School is a realistic recommendation to our board. I don't think that it's a realistic or good recommendation for our city.
Okay. Okay, consensus vote, consensus for moving Santa Rosa High to number 3. Thumbs up. Okay, consensus is to move Santa Rosa High to number 3. Okay, so then the next question on the board would be for Montgomery and Elsie. Do we want to do dots? Oh, actually, it looks like did you have a comment or question or?
So I would like to see Elsie Allen moved down to the second spot also. I think that we need to be respectful to both sides of our town, and we need to support both sides of our town and the families that live there.
So I want to make sure that I'm understanding. Are you asking then to move Elsie to be equal with Santa Rosa High, or are you asking to rank Montgomery, Elsie, and then Santa Rosa High?
I'm asking to rank Elsie with Santa Rosa High.
Okay. So it looks like we have a comment.
I just wanted to point out that Montgomery is the second oldest high school in Santa Rosa, and it is also the most diverse as far as a balanced ethnic and socioeconomic population.
Again, I'm kind of, my worry is, so I know we've all gone home for the last number of weeks and envisioned all these different possibilities and all the different calculations in our head. I sat there thinking like, okay, what if you close Montgomery? It's, I'm thinking, how would you dice it up? Okay, Bennett Valley side's gonna go to Carrillo. You're gonna shorten Carrillo's boundaries, send some kids to Santa Rosa, that central part of Montgomery's district, the village area, gonna go to Santa Rosa. And then everything that's, South Park up to Bennett Valley Road, maybe even creeping up to Yalupa, all going to LC. We are not here to increase segregation in our schools. If you send all of South Park section of Montgomery to Elsie, you are going to increase the lack of diversity. You increase the level of poverty. That is not increasing opportunity and access and upward mobility. That is not best practice. Check out the PACE published policy for analysis of the California education. All the major colleges that everybody goes ooh and ah about have studied all of the districts that have closed schools and what the outcomes were, and they talk about the best practices. It is not best practice to offer a lower performing school or send a school that's performing at a higher level down to a lower performing school. It is not best practice. It's not equity. You should always have an opportunity that's above. And it is more of a diverse school, not a not a homogeneous group that are on the campus at Montgomery. But again, I was thinking, wow, we're going to send all of this one little section of town all over to Elsie and make it more of a that didn't sit with me. I didn't know how to reconcile it and make that different. And I don't know how you get around that. And the other thing is we are here to save money. And if we make a decision to send, if the restaurant is closing, you don't keep the item on the menu that nobody's buying and you stay open. We have to be more responsible about if 722 kids left, let's look up where they went. How many went to Elsie? I mean, how many went to Korea? How many went to Montgomery? How many went to Santa Rosa? And they're already voting. They're telling you what they want to do. It's not that easy. I live in the neighborhood of Elsie Allen. I don't want to see it turn into a ghost town. I am torn. But we have got to make sure that we keep the school open, that we are still attracting students and they are not fleeing, because then we're closing more schools in a year and a half. You got to be responsible.
Okay, thank you. So we are at 9:22-ish. So do we want to, because I don't think that the discussion is furthering the cause tonight. So I do have a question for, do you want to do a spend a dot between the top two, or do we want to move on from high school right now, knowing that the order is Montgomery and Elsie currently tied for number 1, with Santa Rosa High at number 3, and Pioneer and Carrillo as numbers 4 and 5 tied there.
I think we should do the sticker dot to get that out of the way, but I do want to say one thing: to send Elsie Allen students to the other side of this entire school district is extremely disrespectful. And also, it's the school that has the highest percentage of low-income families. So they're working 1, 2, 3 jobs. And now you're expecting them to drive their kids from the furthest part of the district to Montgomery High School. So I hear what you're saying, Coach, but it's the same deal in Elsie Allen High School, and they have higher percentage low income, higher percentage marginalized students, migrant students. And furthermore, I heard some of our committee members talk about how there's building being done in certain areas around some of the elementary schools, where if you go to Elsie Allen High School and you just look across the street, there are hundreds of new single-family dwellings and multiple apartments that have been built over the last 5 to 10 years. So that argument could also be made for high schools. So some of the people that are very passionate about building around the elementary I think it would be interesting if you can consider that in voting for the most disrespected, underserved, under-resourced community in Santa Rosa.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I want to make sure that we honor the 5 minutes remaining. And it doesn't mean that this is how the vote comes out, but maybe that we start the next conversation. I would like, if based on feedback from our chairperson, to go ahead and put up the spend a dot, and we can put on another piece of paper. So do we have a one of the sticky pads back here, and we'll pass out dots. Sorry. Sorry. Mhm.
I really want to honor everybody's time and commitment in this room. And I want to make sure that everyone that has taken the time to stay understands the level of detail that we've all listened to and absorbed. And I don't want this to turn into whoever had the microphone last when everyone is spent. And so I really, really would advocate that we come back fresh, that we don't vote on anything further, that we don't consider this final as our final recommendation, and that we come back to it on the 27th. And I know that's difficult. This is difficult no matter how we cut it, but we can't be making decisions when I'm looking around the room and seeing peers that have put so much care and thought into this to have it rushed last minute. So.
Yeah, just since I know a number of folks. Okay, sorry. I think a number of folks did say that they were ready to do the spend it out. So maybe before just jumping straight into it, can we just do the thumbs up, thumbs down on the spend it out and see where all the committee members are on that? This is
Spend a dot, thumbs up or thumbs down. Do you want to spend a dot before leaving this evening?
spend it out means
dot
to
on
vote,
Montgomery or Elsie, sorry.
to take your vote and put it up on the board. Okay, I think we're.
A spend it out would be that you would have Montgomery and Elsie, and each person has one dot. And doesn't mean that it does, it makes a decision, but it indicates where we start the conversation.
Yeah.
So it looks like the spend a dot vote has changed. The consensus has changed to, no, we are tired this evening. Okay. Okay. Do you want to?
Okay, so sorry, before,
Well,
hold the applause just for 1 second, just to finish up the agenda here officially. So next steps. Yeah, next steps at this point. So the next meeting will be January 27th. We'll basically pick up immediately on the first agenda item with exactly this discussion. And then from there, we'll move into the alternative discussions after that. So thank you.
Also, I want to call the committee's attention to that there was correspondence received between the last committee meeting and earlier this week, and that has been attached as information items. The same thing, just in preparation for the 27th. We will have the same thing. We'll have information attached like that. You will also have the information from the town halls that will be posted with the agenda as well, the outcomes from that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all so much. Are we adjourning at 9:28? Thank you.